Because of my passion for online entrepreneurship and in believing the impact we can make if we can all discover our purpose and do what we love, the Passion and Purpose podcast was born. I hope to share more inspiring adventures with you along with the people who have been there and done that. All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Passion and Purpose podcast. And we're here again for another inspiring adventures. And before I introduce you, my very special guest, I would like to remind everyone, if you're not following the Passion and Purpose podcast yet, you may go to rochefel.com/podcast or Rochefel Rivera youtube.com/c/Rochefel Rivera. You may follow me there. All right. And to introduce to you my very special guest, her name is Jen Cajucom or Jeanette Cajucom. She is a passionate CEO, brand strategist who helps CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business owners find their true voice and translate that into a more authentic and more human-centered brand storytelling. She is also the podcast host of Your Brand, Your Story, which provides a platform for business owners and thought leaders to share conversations and their own stories on humanness and authenticity. She has also shared insights about the same topics on a few TEDx events. Yes, she is. And now as an author of an upcoming book, Craft Your Personal Brand Story. She is also currently the Philippines editor for visuals and community engagement for Marketing in Asia. Marketing in Asia, sorry. My very special friend, Jen, good afternoon, and thank you so much for gracing the show.
Hi, Rochefel. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's been months since we last talked, right?
Yes, that's right. I think before the pandemic strikes. So
Yes.
that's how long it is. But Jen, for the benefit of our viewers, I know that I've already, give them your introduction, but maybe you can tell them more about yourself. Some things that I didn't, recited earlier, and some things that maybe I don't know yet.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, as Rochefel said, yeah, my name is Jeanette Cajucom. But yeah, friends like Rochefel, they call me Jen. And how do I start my story? Well, pretty much Rochefel and I uh, have uh, have a similar if not the same journey. And it was I also had to undergo a process which led me to discover my passion and purpose. But then I have to warn you, you might be a little confused with my story, because I pretty much had a taste of different industries until I eventually learned how to connect the dots to eventually find the answers why certain things happened the way they did, why why I had to undergo certain challenges in life. So I guess just to give you an idea of what I'm actually talking about, um, I actually studied nursing and computer science. And this is also the same story that I shared with one podcast. While my it's like my experience in the healthcare setting combined with my exposure in the IT BPO company, since I graduated computer science, has paved the way for me to really embrace customer service on a deeper level. And that eventually, I guess, also became my edge as I also ventured into digital marketing, to be exact, and then eventually branding. So imagine those are different types of discipline. So I really had to connect the dots, because in the healthcare industry, you need to be compassionate around people. But then it wasn't I guess really my calling. And I do remember that, I do remember back in high school when we had this interaction with our guidance counselor. I was already told that I cannot have a flourishing career in the medical field because I do not have the compassion for it. Yes,
Oh.
you look surprised. I was told that. But then, I did tell my parents and my grandparents about it. But then, you know, it's, I guess they come from a different era because they believe that once, you just learn something, put your heart into it, you can eventually be successful. But my take on it, I may be successful, but then, I may not, chances are I may not create an impact in the lives of the people around me in that setting. So yeah, I was able to take that, what I learned in the healthcare industry, in the IT BPO setting, rather, when I worked, when I worked for help desks for large computer manufacturing companies from the US, and Germany. And during that time, because I started in the BPO IT industry, the early 2000. I think it was in the early 2000. Actually, prior to that, because I'm a graduate of computer science. Excuse me.
Water, Jen, it's okay.
Sorry about that. I also worked for a software consultancy firm. I was a systems analyst there, and then, things didn't, things didn't turn out well because most of the clientele that this company that I worked for catered to were from government agencies. So you know how that is when you're in the Philippines. So when I joined the IT BPO industry, that was when I really learned what customer satisfaction is, what customer experience is in a deeper level. Because day in, day out, I would really, there was always an opportunity to address something. It was like I ate irate customers for breakfast, even lunch and dinner.
Yeah, I can relate to
So
that.
yeah, so it came to a point when I realized that customer service is not just an after sales thing. It should be an end to end delightful experience. I mean, from the time they inquire until the time that you provide, during the time you provide service, and even after. So it's that being said, it's not an after sales thing anymore. So that being said, that I used that as my weapon to have my hand in marketing. Because and this is another story, because in the late 90s I did already start with marketing, the traditional marketing with an architectural firm. And then I went back to it after I left the BPO industry. And that was when my experience with digital marketing started. And back then, they didn't call it digital marketing. Back then, they called it web marketing, internet marketing, right? And it was only when mobile marketing became a thing that they called it digital marketing as a whole. So there, and then eventually, since digital marketing, there were a lot of technicals in the digital marketing space. I decided to focus on branding, personal branding, to be exact. I did already have some thoughts about it, because I did get a hand on it when I was working in marketing, in the marketing department. But I eventually got my validation about personal branding when I came across this book by Anela Donato. She's the author of a book, which she titled The Human Centered Brand. And I also got the chance to interact with her. She's based in Croatia, by the way. And up to this day, I keep on sharing to people what really retained in my head after reading that book. And that's to sum it up, she said there that people would rather deal with people than businesses. So that's when I really, started to advocate, when I got that validation from that book. And after after a few exchanges with her, that was when I really put my foot forward, put myself out there, and really have people, embrace their own personal brand. But then as personal branding became more popular, I mean, you're always online, Rosh. You'd see personal branding consultants, personal branding coaches. I mean, they would, they would advocate on sprucing up your Instagram account, sprucing up your LinkedIn profile, sprucing up, I mean, creating your own Facebook page, not just your personal Facebook account. But really, if you think about it, personal branding is really a journey. Personal branding is really a journey, because if you look at this scenario where everybody just, just decorates their own pages, their own social media accounts, the fact still remains, competition is still there, and it's even tougher, right? It's even tougher because you only address one side of personal branding, and that's on the external. And addressing the external shouldn't even be the first step. It should be the second part or the last step, because you really have to know who you are, and that's when I started to really dig into personal brand story. Because I mean, if people ask you, let's say I ask you, Rashafel, what's your personal brand, right? I mean, how would you answer that question in a way that would resonate with your target audience? I mean, would it be suffice to say that I have experience in this, I have experience in that, I have certification in this, I have license in that, I have, my core values are this, and that, and I believe in this kind of culture, I believe in this kind of environment, or my personality is this, my personality is that. Do you think that would suffice if you want to connect with your target audience? So that's when I really became interested in storytelling, because it's really powerful. And if you think about it, I mean, when we were kids, right, when we were asked by our teachers to do the show and tell thing, where we'd be asked to bring our favorite pet or favorite toy or favorite book, right? And when we were kids, when we were asked to to tell our story in front, I mean, we were taught the difference between show and tell, right? And that when you know the difference, you get to you get to know which one which is more effective. And so yeah, I've really, during this pandemic, I guess I've had the I've had more time to really dig deeper. Although prior to the pandemic, I've attended in different storytelling conferences, and because I was fortunate enough to be invited in a few TEDx talks. That was the opportunity for me to really study the different storytelling frameworks and how other TEDx speakers have done it, which is why the way I would frame the content in my TEDx talk, I would also bring it in crafting my own personal brand. I mean, if you're able to make an impact in at least 100 people through your TEDx talk, then you can probably bring that in crafting your own brand story, right? Because and this is, I guess, That's pretty much me. I would eventually want to be able to share that to other people. It's not really about, about the skills. You don't have to be really super good at something just so you can get the attention
Yeah.
of your target audience, of your target clients or whoever. I mean, you really just have to know yourself first and then know how to tell your story. So yeah, in a nutshell, that is pretty much who I am. And you also have to know I mean to make your story more meaningful, I guess. Just like what your podcast is all about, you should know who you are, not just who your parents are, diba? But more about what your passion is and what your purpose is. I mean, because I always think that is a better story to tell.
Yes. Actually, Jen, I heard the term from you when you we were talking, I think it was 1 or 2 years ago, and you were telling me about this term, your gift to the world. In fact, I also used that in one of my copy, because when you know your passion and you know your purpose, you feel very empowered. You feel like your skills is doing something relevant and you find real meaning to what you're doing. And that's when I said, yes, this is it. This is my gift to the world. And that's what I want. That's how I want this conversation to, to run. Because how are they going to communicate their gift to the world? How are they going to make their brand story? What is their first step into creating their brand story?
Well, you really have to know, I guess. I would want to establish the premise first, because I mean we're in this same network and circle where we're always told that we have to know who our target audience is, right?
Yeah.
We are to tell our story. But the truth is, while that is important, that is not really the first step. And it's not also even, because we are also told that you have to know your why, right? It's really important that you have to. For me, my take on this is, the question is not what your why is, but who you are first. Because once you know who you are, it would eventually lead to finding out what your why is. And then once you find out what your why is, then you would eventually know who your ideal client who your ideal client is. Because you would eventually find out, after knowing your why, which is your purpose, of course. The next question you'd be asking, okay, so if my purpose is this, who will benefit from this, right? Who will benefit from this purpose? So I guess you have to keep that in mind when you craft your story. It's a little tricky because we're so used to telling our own story based on our timeline,
Yeah,
from
because
the day.
we're so
Yeah.
used to create autobiography when we were
Yes,
in grade
yes.
school.
That's the framework that we have been used to from the time we were born till the time that we were able to speak, till the time we were able to study, then graduate, find a job, get married, yada da yada da. It has always been that way. But if you think about it, especially if you want to tell your story to your target audience, if you just base your storytelling on your timeline, I mean, what are the chances that your target audience would become interested? Where were they in that story if you just base it on your timeline? So one trick that I can share, this is something that I've also discovered from one of the content posted by one of my marketing idols. His name is Mark Schaefer, and he's also the author of an award-winning of a bestseller book called Marketing Rebellion. And she shared this storytelling framework. It's not really a storytelling framework, but it's like it's a pitch it, that when I when I tried it, I tested it, I tried to turn it more into a story. And this is what you can also use, Rochelle, your audience, even your team, whenever, whenever you're given the opportunity to tell your story or even do a talk. The framework that I've learned is the I, you, they, we. Okay, that's the frame. I, you, they, we. Because using this framework, you would be able to involve other people, particularly your target audience. With I, this is like some sort of workshop already.
Yeah, they
So
would
yeah,
like it.
I'm already giving you a taste of it. I've written other I've actually written other storytelling frameworks in my other book, but this, I guess, is much simpler. I is when you write your story, the first sentence in your paragraph, when you address the I part, is I have a story to tell you. That's the intro. When you apply the I in the I, you, we, they, we part, then you elaborate on that. You just elaborate on that. I have a story to share. I mean, but then of course, with the story that you're gonna share, because if you think about it, we have a multifaceted life. You have to define your goal first as to why you would want to tell your story. What is it about your brand that you want your people to know about? Okay. Example. If you have, let's say, I mean, since we're into marketing, let's say you created this product. And then the reason why you created this product is because you have experienced it for yourself, that it was non-existent and you had a problem back then, but there was no available product or service for it. So that can be your foundation in the I part. So for example, when you say, I have a story to tell you, and then you say, back in the day, I had this problem, but it was not available. I couldn't find a solution. Something like that. So you can just elaborate on that part. And then with the you part, that's the part where you involve your target audience. And you can connect the I part with the you part by sharing that I'm pretty sure that you have also experienced this. And this is now the part where you express how well you know your target audience is. I mean, if you really know what your target audience is, you should be able to pinpoint what their pain points are in relation to your story. So you can introduce this. I mean, if let's say you're gonna write this story, and this is gonna be your, let's say, your second paragraph, you can say something like, I'm pretty sure you have experienced the same. And then from there, you can elaborate. This is now where you can reveal the pain points that they're experiencing, that you're also aware of. So that way they can easily resonate with you. You can easily get their attention as well. And then once you've expounded on that, once you've established, how they can get involved in your story, this is now where you further solidify your brand story by coming up with the they part. They is referring to third party entities. When we say third party entities, entities that will solidify your story, especially if your brand is about solving a particular problem. So third party entities like research, scientists, or other people. You can introduce the they part by saying something like, research have sh- research has shown, or scientists have proven, to just solidify the problem that you're trying to solve. And then, yeah, then you can just expound on that. And then on the we part, this is now where you involve. This is now where you involve your target audience to take action, because by the time that you have revealed everything in your story, how how you are how you are aware of their pain points, and how research has proven that that, let's say, your product or service is a solution to their problem, your brand is a solution to their problem. And this is now where you can encourage them or invite them to take action, and that is the we part. So if you think about it, I mean, if you really want to have a powerful brand, especially if you want people to resonate, connect, and eventually convert, you really have to find a way to craft your story that would compel them to to take action. So that pretty much is what I have been busy with the past years, the past months, leading to the time when I already when I wrote the story, which I hope I'll be sharing soon with you. So yeah, it's applicable even to freelancers, especially we I believe that the number of freelancers that we have right now has already doubled, considering
I think so, yeah.
the global health crisis situation. So I mean, that being said, competition has become even tougher. And while there are thought leaders that say that attention is the most important currency, the results of it may be short-lived, because attention, I mean, if you think about it, standing out attention, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, that's on that is if your perspective um is 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 geared towards your competition, but your goal really is to not just get attention, right? Your goal really is to not just stand out. If you um if you really want conversion, whether to gain a client, to gain a collaboration, or to help someone, what you need is something deeper than attention. And
Yeah.
that is so and because of that, I believe that the more important currency than attention is trust. And how can you establish trust if if you don't have a story to tell, right? So yeah, and I mean, with the way we operate nowadays, with more and more businesses turning into digital, if you think about it, what strategy can you do that even before a potential client actually interacts with you, whether it's on Zoom or on Slack or wherever, what strategy can you do that would somehow help you already establish a certain amount of trust, or at least connect with them even before you have interacted with them? So my take on that really is, your personal brand should have a story. So there, because that's the best way that your clients can relate to you.
Yes, yes, that's right. In fact, I always use the term connection, because how are we going to start building a relationship with our clients if we cannot connect? And the very first thing that we can connect with clients is by sharing a part of ourselves so that they will share theirs too. You know what I mean? And that is something that is not easy for everyone to do. I've seen many people that are very well guarded. They talk about their privacy. They don't want to tell their personal stories. And for them, it's something that is theirs, and their very few members in the family should know. And they're not willing to share the story to the world. Now, what can you advise, or what can you tell to those people who wanted to build a business or maybe a personal brand, but is having hesitations into sharing their own stories?
Yeah. There have been, I've personally been there. For one, I would consider myself, a very private person as well. But then every time I go back to, to what my goal is, to what my purpose is, I, I'm given a better choice than to just sit back and just be in the shadows, because there's something more that matters, because there is a bigger problem to solve. So I guess, in the case of privacy, tools are just tools. If we're talking about putting our brand online, but still being protected at the same time, the tools are there not to really put us in danger, as long as we know how to use it, right? I guess the simplest example is Facebook alone. The edit privacy feature has been made available to us so that we control what we put out there. So you can apply the same thing even with the other platforms that you use. And I guess it also boils down to being intentional. Why are you putting yourself out there in the first place? Why are you putting your why have you decided to put your personal brand out there nowadays? And one thing that I guess that is common among businesses or entrepreneurs or even professionals who are just starting out, they tend to overlook, because for the most part they make this decision to build a personal brand because eventually they want to earn. Sorry about that, that's my alarm. Yeah. They want to earn, that's the immediate focus. And when the intention is immediately on the monetary side of things, you um you tend there is a tendency
Yeah,
to put too much, or to spread ourselves thinly. And that's what I like about setting goals, defining our intention, because it also serves as our reference. Why am I here in the first place? Oh, okay. A simple example. When I write an article. Why am I writing this article again? Ah, yes, it's because my goal is to help people. So that being said, my content should be about that. And if you think about it, you're not really putting yourself too much out there, because you are what you're doing is for helping other people, right? When you say authenticity is not it's not just limited to putting everything about yourself out there. It's also about your authenticity to help, if you think about it. So I guess, yeah, that's on the, I guess, the privacy part thing. You've been part of different communities. You've also created communities for yourself, and you've been putting yourself out there for years now. But then I'm pretty sure that you have still maintained, your own privacy, your family's privacy, because you just choose, right? You just choose what you put out there, because not everybody is interested to know everything about you, because they would only be interested what you can help them with. So I hope I'm making sense. So,
yeah, yeah.
and and another part is, one of the reasons what that I noticed among entrepreneurs is because they have this, and I've also had this before, is the self-limiting belief and the imposter syndrome, the self-doubt. And because I mean, and it's understandable because we have um we have been accustomed to believe, I guess it's because of the traditional educational system that we grew up with. It's like that we it has been embedded to us that we have to reach a certain level of expertise before we
Before we put
can
ourselves out there.
before we put ourselves out there.
Yeah.
And I just remembered, and this might also resonate to your audience, to those who haven't decided yet to put themselves out there. Just this morning, I had this conversation with my virtual assistant. She has been with me since 2010, I think 2009, 2010. And currently, I mean, we still work together, but she's now able to get her own clients on her own. And she has already reached that stage where she's now receiving invitations to speak in
Wow.
podcasts, to go on live on YouTube, to go on live on Facebook, to share so that so that she can share her insights and experience in terms of her niche and her expertise. And she asked me about it. I mean, she because she wanted to know how to go about it because she feels that she doesn't have enough insights to share. She doesn't have enough experience to share. And I remember just this morning, I told her, um, you are the expert of the own, you are the expert of your own results. So you are an expert in your own right. And for one, you have already reached from point A to point B. And that's why people are interested in you now, because you are now, I mean, through your experience and through your expertise, you are now in a position to give value to those who are just still at point A.
That's correct. Mhm.
And the good thing about those who are just in point A, they are not just interested to hear how you were able to make it. They Some of them for sure, I mean most of them for sure would want to know that, is it all right to commit this mistake? Is it all right? Because if you think about it, I mean, we all know that success is not a straight line. So it's important also that you share your mistakes, because I mean, mistakes are the ones that help you get there, right? So and other people would like to know as well the mistakes that you've committed. They
Yeah.
don't want to hear about perfection. They want to hear, you know, all the mishaps that you've come across with. So I mean, I guess that's also what I would, you know, um, uh, what I would advise to those who are starting out, especially the the entrepreneurs. It's it's you're more authentic when you're, you know, when you're flawed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I'm not saying this to
Part of
encourage
you.
people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not encouraging, of course, people to, you know, to commit flaws intentionally, but more like, you know, just, you know, just embrace the mistakes as they come in, because I mean, in reality, we don't define failure as the opposite side of success. In fact, they go together.
Alongside it. Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
That's right.
So yeah, I guess when they limit, no, when they're being haunted by self-limiting belief, by self-doubt, um, they just have to probably remind themselves that it's not about them, but it's about the people that they can help. So yeah.
Thank you, Jen. I like that. It's really true that people have these self-limiting beliefs, and in the class, whenever I do a training, of course, we always start with the road mapping. They have to understand who they are, what their goals are, what kind of lifestyle do they want to live, what are the skills that they have, and what where do they think they can share that skill so that they would give value to others. And for some, it's easy to know that, hey, I like painting, or I like singing, I like doing this. But for others who are having a hard time finding their true skills, because some people will say, I don't have a talent. I used to say this, Jen. I don't know how to sing, I don't know how to dance, I have two left feet. And I don't know how to draw either. I'm not good at math. So I am always saying I don't have a talent. But I didn't realize that I am a very friendly person. I get along with people pretty well. And I didn't know that that is a talent, because that is a soft skill. Leadership skill is may not be a skill that you can showcase when you join, let's say, a beauty contest or whatever contest. It's not a skill that you can showcase. But when you go out there in the real world, it's something that you can really make use of, and people doesn't know about that. So in crafting their brand story, while finding what they love doing, while finding the problems that they want to solve and how they can give value to the world, is there a shortcut that you can advise them on how they can do all things together, or there is a certain process that you might want to recommend?
Ah, in terms of, yeah, it could be a bit of a challenge if you go immediately to the crafting of the story part, because the prelude to that is, and it will also help them gain clarity. They have to first, know who they are, yeah, what they can do, and like what you've shared in your training, help them discover their skills. But um, I guess in terms of skills, because if they really want to put their brand out there, they have, because I'm pretty sure that they have more than one skill, at
Yes.
least they have more than one skill. So I guess my take on that is they have to weed out, or filter rather, filter their can do, uh, their can do and their love to do, because there are things that they can do but they don't necessarily want to create a business or a career out of it. I mean, I guess an example of this would be, I mean, because of, the constant invitations that I get from, to appear in webinars, I kind of gotten more used to using PowerPoint. I've somehow become more well versed in PowerPoint. I can do PowerPoint, but do I necessarily want to build a career out of it? Do I necessarily love PowerPoint? No. So you really have to filter your can do by identifying your love to do. So what is it really that, that sparks your joy? What is it that you can do that at the same time your peers, your coworkers are just simply amazed, I guess, that you're able to do it in such a short time, and you are at the same time passionate while doing it. So that, I guess, those are the simple things that I can share. Because I mean, if you just focus on your can do, I'm pretty sure you'd come up with a long list and you'd just end up
Yeah.
confused. So from your can do, try to identify which are your can do and your love to do at the same time. And then, then from there, I guess, um, try to, try to answer the question, what is this, I mean, what is my love to do useful for? Who are the people who have the problems where I can be the solution? Because I mean, in any case, I'm able to do it in just short amount of time, and then other people are struggling with it, then might as well offer it as a service, for example. So yeah, so that's the simplest way. And then from there, once you're able to identify who can benefit from your love to do, as we have mentioned earlier, then it should be somehow already easy for you to start your story, because by that stage you already know what you already know the kind of clients who have these problems, that where you come in as the solution. And then, just use the framework that we shared earlier. So I hope that makes sense. I hope people are able to put two and two together.
Yeah, I think they did. They did because I did. Because I know that for some who are just starting out, it's not easy, to define what they love doing, and sometimes what you love doing, you can't find a way how to make money out of it. You know that, and sometimes you really have to find your way around that thing so that you can at least have this, money to suffice what you need. I mean, to have something that you can spend to let's say that, I mean, to become sustainable, right? And it's
Right.
not easy to really dive in, because some people will say I love singing, and you will not earn right away by singing. You have to really work your way up there, and that is something that's really not easy to do, especially for starting entrepreneurs. And there is also this fear of doing something, fear of failure, fear of not meeting the expectations of others, fear of setting up their price. In terms of those, the fear, in terms of those, they don't know how to make money out of what they love doing. Is there a way that you can give advice on how people can really find these two together, like how do I get paid, and how do I get to do what I love? Because you mentioned earlier about people and about problems and about how to put them together, and sometimes it's not easy, especially if you're scared to do something that is not that it's there's no solid ground when you jump. You will just
Yes.
jump, and then you will see what happens when you're already there.
Yes, and then yeah, that's true. That's true, and you just really have to tweak along the way, because there really isn't what do you call this, a fail-proof
Formula.
strategy,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Yes, you just really have to be willing to start to take that first step. And I guess my advice would be, you mentioned about that example of a person who loves singing. My take on that is, if you really want, I mean, since we're talking about people who'd be paying money, with the gifts that we have, with the solutions that we are able to solve, I guess the better question to ask ourselves is not just what do we love to do, but what do we love to do for other people.
There.
I guess by refining it that way, through that question, you're already somehow able to address one part of your problem, which is your target market, your target audience, right? So answer that question. What is it that you love to do for other people, I mean, day in, day out, right? So, and then I guess from there, since, I mean, the next question you should probably now ask yourself is, um, who are these kind of people? What kind of problems are they having? I mean, what challenges are they going through? And why do you think are you able to solve their problem? So, I mean, making it simple, I mean, provides more direction and clarity. At least, you're by answering basic questions, you give yourself a more solid foundation on how to go about things. But then definitely, once you execute it, there will be adjustments along the way, because for one, market is forever changing. Your audience would be, I mean, just like, an example would be this pandemic. Consumers behavior has changed, I mean, almost instantly. I mean,
Mm.
all of a sudden, people are no longer interested in buying stuff. They're more interested in buying, I mean, if before the pandemic they're not interested in getting insurances, and now it's like, no, they're now they now want to get insurance. They're now more interested in health. So things like that. So I mean, along the way, you have to adjust, I guess. The rule of thumb here, there is no timeless strategy, since times are always changing, but always bear in mind um to find out what your customer want, what your client wants. Because I mean, at the end of the day, who pays, right?
Course.
Yeah.
That's right. And then going to that, who pays? Because
Sure.
after, for example, they've already crafted a compelling, brand story. What would they do next? Because other people are just, scared to start something, especially if it's something new to them. What will they do after they crafted their brand story?
Well, of course, I mean, since we're now, more and more people now are operating digitally. You can't just craft a story and then just,
Forget about it.
upload it as a Facebook post, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because for sure, I mean, those who'll be reading it are just your friends, your Facebook friends, your friends in real life, your coworkers. And I mean, if they're not your target audience, and then your story was just read by the wrong eyes, or probably since they're already your friends and family, they already know about it. So probably, since you've already, by the time you create your story, you have already gone through the process of identifying your target audience, your target client. And one of the things that you have to know about your client is their behavior, in terms of how, I mean, where do they frequent online? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Twitter? Right? Are they on LinkedIn? If, let's say, you want to go the B2B route, I mean, your story has to be read, by the right eyes, has to be heard by the right ears, so to speak. So you have to also do your due diligence and research. I mean, because it's part of knowing your target audience. Because I mean, when this is based on the marketing principle. You don't just stick on the demographics, the psychographics, but also the technographics, right? And when we say technographics, this is, this is their digital habits come in. Where do they frequent? I mean, in when you're in a real life setting, I mean, would you, let's say, go to a wet market if your target audience is in the mall, something like that? That's that's uh that's a far out, that's a weird example, but I'm just trying to drive that analogy. So yeah, so you have to be strategic. And then there are a lot of platforms nowadays. You don't just have to stick on social media, but I mean, but yeah, if it's any consolation, there are billions of users on Facebook, 100 millions, I think, more than 700 million on LinkedIn. But if you really want to be more strategic, you can also explore publications, right? I mean, there's Medium, there's Thrive Global, and of course, there's Marketing in Asia if you want to target,
Yes.
Asia, right? And then one, I mean, if you also just want to share a small part of your story, you can also explore forum sites like Quora, right? And then, I mean, if you're more of an offline person, I mean, given that, let's say after this pandemic, you can also reach out. You can also reach out to events or event organizers, and find out first, of course, because if your content would be of no value to them. I mean, chances of getting invited, uh, would be very slim. You have to find out first if their if their purpose of organizing an event aligns with your story. So let's say you want to establish yourself as an entrepreneur, then you should probably coordinate with an organizer of an entrepreneurship event, whether I mean it's offline or online. So see where your story would be of value, yeah, to your audience.
In
So
short, this is where the work begins.
yes, yes, exactly. Because writing is just the first part. It has to be read by the right people, your target people.
And
So
they have to be consistent. For example, during the first crafting of their brand story, they're crafting, let's say, this is what they love doing, and then after like 3 months or 4 months, they would do something that is really very different and very far off from that from that message. Chances are the people that are listening to you, or the people that are reading your article, your brand story, will get confused on what you really wanted to convey. So that is also, I think, something that they need to, check out at least
yes.
every periodically.
Yes, yes, true. True. It's yeah, it happens actually. Now that you've mentioned it, and this is I would just also want to share my personal experience on it. Back in the day when I sort of put more time on my hobbies and interests. I took a hand at calligraphy and photography. And then when I wanted to focus on branding, I stopped. I stopped doing it because I did not find the connection. I did not find the connection. And then when I yeah, like I said earlier, when I explored about branding, the storytelling part of it, when I've gotten to learn personal branding on a deeper level, and since branding also involves design, logo making, the aesthetics part of it, I realized that I could put my calligraphy into good use, and even photography into good use,
Yes.
into branding, incorporate it into branding. And yeah, I just thought I'd share that because incidentally, that's also my thrust for this year. And yeah,
In fact, Jen, there is this certain website that what they're doing is they're writing your names, or your brand names, in different penmanships. I don't know. It looks very, very beautiful, and it could really be of much use for a logo. And if you combine that with your skill for photography, you can become this branding expert that can do, let's say, branding images, headshots, images that they can use for their about page, for their front page. And then you're going to, let's say, offer them the logo creation through your calligraphy. Well, that's also something that's, it's a complete package, right?
yes, actually, when I told my dad about it, actually, I didn't know this is just some form of side story, because I didn't know that when my dad during his younger years was also into calligraphy, he also had this boxes of
He
tools
passed the
in
genes.
calligraphy. Yes, and then when he saw me doing calligraphy, when he saw my Facebook post, my first Facebook post in calligraphy, that was back in 2015 when I really did, when I made that decision to do serious calligraphy back in 2015 or 2014. When he saw that post, he told me that that was the only time when I learned that. And he even told me a story that my grandmother would even, scold him for using up too many notebooks just for his calligraphy drills. So that was when I discovered, yeah, you're right, that I must have gotten the genes from him. And then I was really skeptical because people were really giving me feedback and during that time I felt that it was something that anybody could do. It was something that
Oh,
anybody could do.
no.
Yeah. And then so which is why, I just, I felt that I was the only one who loved doing it, which is now I share this insight to you that you have to answer the question that what is it that you love to do for people? And back then, I only answered the question, what is it that I love to do? And then I've that I've, because I had requests back then, requests for, for wedding invitations, for doing logos. Even back then, I did create logos for fashion designers. And for I also did wedding invitations back then. I did not find the relation of that back then to the work that I'm doing with branding now. And yeah, this is why I thank this pandemic so much, because it helps me, reflect and do another, connect the dots thing. So because I mean, there's always this urge, because I have this tendency when I want to take a break from my actual personal branding work, I have this tendency to just, do calligraphy as a stress reliever, until it dawned on me, hey, I think, yeah, when I've gotten feedback from people, I want this from my logo. And then yeah, so I made the decision now. So yeah, I guess I can incorporate it. So I guess I'm sharing this to people that you can, it's just really a matter of asking the right question. What is it that you love to do for people, para so that you won't be confused, especially if you have lots of things that you want to do or enjoy doing.
Wow. From creating a brand story to finding what you love doing, and then what you love doing for other people, that will help you, that will literally shortcut your process of creating your product or your signature services. So I think that is something that our audience would really, it's a takeaway already for those who are listening in this episode.
I
And
hope so.
yeah, and knowing that you're into photography and calligraphy, you see, my logo is based on calligraphy. But I didn't know that you are doing calligraphy. Had I known, I would have asked you to write my name in
Yeah,
different
I
ways.
did. Yeah, I did. I did serious dip pen calligraphy. I was collecting different nibs, those vintage nibs that you dip on ink. And yeah, I also did brush calligraphy with different brushes that were made of, from horse hair to goat's hair. Yeah, because the finer they are, the better, because the synthetic won't be able to, sort of produce a more beautiful output. The synthetic ones, those made of real hair, those are the ones that would come out more beautifully. And then now that we're, since a lot of people are going into digital, I did also explore digital, yeah, calligraphy.
I am excited for that. And then, Jen, for those who are wondering how, I mean, their brand story, of course, they need to craft their brand story. They need to understand what they love doing for others so that they can create this product that would be their gift to the world,
Yes.
as we can say it. And then the next, you also mentioned about calligraphy, technically on the side. So that can be their logo. That can be the, what do you call it, the representation of their business.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else that we're missing that you might want to add? It's already a package already.
Yes. I guess it's just because if we are to put some sort of structure for people's guidance, your personal brand as a whole, because your story is just part of is a part, but a big part of your personal brand. Your personal brand is basically composed of two parts: the inner work where you discover your authentic self, and the outer work, which is of course about your logo, your color scheme, whatever what symbol you represent. What was the question again? Sorry.
It's okay. I mean, is there something else
Yeah.
that we're missing?
Yeah, so there. So after, now that you have a structure, you have to do the inner work first before the outer work, because if you do it, you just end up, if let's say you do the logo first, if you do the logo first,
Yeah.
you just end up changing it, because it's, imagine if you do the logo first, and then it was later, after you did the logo, that you were able to discover yourself, what you're really all about, what your story is. It You will get to that point where you would want to change your logo. So might as well do the inner work first. Know yourself really well. Know the audience that you really want to help. Know the market that you really want to help before you do the outer work. And when you do the outer work, always make sure that it's cohesive with your story. I guess I just had to say that, because like I said, I did this calligraphy logo design for for a budding fashion designer. She's also Filipina, and she's now based in Australia. She's in that creative circles, and she's a fashion designer, so she knows other creative people who can actually do her logo. But incidentally, none of them knew calligraphy. None of them knew calligraphies. And then I asked, why calligraphy? Why are you interested in calligraphy in the first place? Because I couldn't find the connection back then of calligraphy with fashion design. And then she was focusing on the detail. And she's right. I mean, when you do strokes in calligraphy, the output is somewhat like a representation of fabric, of thread, of the flow of dresses. So, and that was why she wanted me to do her logo, because she wanted it to be a representation of who she is and her work, which is she makes lovely, flowy dresses. And that was also how I did calligraphy. So, yeah, so I guess I just had to share that, because you have to make sure that, your story should represent the other aspects of your branding, like your logo and your website. Because, I mean, especially on your website, you would want to make sure, because for sure, they will see your website first before your face,
Yes.
right? So you have to make sure that, whatever is on the website is really who you are. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Jen, because I tried. I created my logo like 7 years ago, and from that 7 years, I think I changed my logo one, two, three, four, 5 times. I think 4 or 5 times already. And this time, it was last year when we finalized the logo of professional VAs. And it took me like 6 years before I was able to finally embrace personal branding. Because before, I really don't want to use my name, Rochefel. It's so long. So I wanted people to just call me Roche. It's just one syllable. So for me, I'm a shy person. It's just they just don't know it. But I don't feel proud putting my name out there back in the days. And then I had to find that courage to finally buy the domain rochefel.com and rochefelrivera.com, and fully embrace what I am and what I can do, what I can help people with. And then once I did that, and it took me like 7 years to finally create the website, the message, the brand story, Jen, and the logo that I really, really want, and the color that I really, really want. And there was this message. I think it was a proverb or a quotation that if you wanted to, what do you call that? If you wanted to chop the wood, you have to sharpen the axe longer than the process of chopping the wood itself. I can't remember the exact quotation, but it's something like that. That you spend more time um, sharpening the axe than rather than chopping the wood itself. It's just like the branding is like that. You have to be very sure about yourself. Right? You have to know
Yeah.
yourself, your purpose, what you want to do, so that when you finally bring yourself out there to the world, it's gift wrapped gift to the world. It's really like that you're proud of doing it, and you won't stop until you unravel what's inside that gift.
That's so true. I love that you created this imagery that, about the gift. about the gift, that your personal brand is indeed a gift, because at the end of the day, you're not doing a brand just for yourself, because like I said, yeah, it's a gift that you give to people. Because yeah, and I think it was Seth Godin who said it, your brand is your promise as well.
Oh, see?
Yeah.
I enjoyed this episode, Zen, and I hope we can do it again when your book launches.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, I'd love, yeah, to do it here on your podcast, of course.
Yay. And before we, of course, say goodbye to our audience, is there a final message, a, parting message that you wanted to, leave to them?
Yeah, I guess that um don't overcomplicate things. Definitely you will not have all of the answers right away. And I don't really suggest that you figure out all the answers when you start, because they won't come. Just just really start. And I mean, given already that you have this self-limiting belief, aside from the fact that you have to have this mindset that you're not doing it for yourself, but the market that you want to serve, I guess, I mean, let's already set that scenario that you have the self-limiting belief that you don't know enough yet. I mean, by starting, I mean, let's say that it's true that you don't know everything yet. I mean, by at least starting would help you, would help you get better, given that that is really the case. Because otherwise, if you just stay, I mean, it's also important that for us to be ready to put ourselves out there, because for all you know, when people say that you are really good, you might just get the validation that you need, and you won't be able to get that validation if you don't start. So
Yes,
there.
that's true. Thank you so much, Jen. In fact, I wanted to add something to that because other people really wanted to be perfect before they start, and if they're going to wait for that, I don't think anybody is that perfect and that ready to start something that is, let's say, a business. A business is like a baby, and sometimes even
Yes.
parents are not yet that ready to become parents. But when the child is born, they don't have a choice. They have to really raise the child well
Yes.
in a godly manner, in the way that is right and good. And that's the same for business. You just
Yes.
have to commit, and there's no going back, no looking
Yes.
back. Just go.
Yes. True, true. Yeah, and since you mentioned that, if I may just add quickly, means perhaps it's about time that we change how we perceive failure.
Yes.
Yes, let's change our perception of failure. Let's treat failure just let's treat failures as an opportunity instead, for us to tweak and adjust, because they're actually blessings.
Agree. And since you mentioned failure, I would also like to mention success.
Yes.
Because a lot of people are always, oh, you're so successful right now. Oh, you don't know. It's not like that. Because some people just associate success with money, with fame, with networks. And yes, it's part of it. But success has different definition for different people. For example, my success might be different from your definition of success because we have different goals. And then we only have milestones.
Yes.
Success is something that people pretended to be something permanent. It's a destination, but it's not. The success that they're saying is technically the destination, because if you stop, the journey itself, because if you stop along the way, success will stop from there too. So there
Yes.
wouldn't be any success anymore because you stopped. So it's
Right.
really the journey, and it's the journey of becoming a better person. It's the journey of making yourself useful with the time that is given to you, with the time that is given to you in this world. Because we only have maybe 60, 70. You're lucky if you reach 80 these days. Especially right now, if you hit if you get hit by COVID within 2 weeks, you're dead. And then what are we going to do in those 2 weeks time? So I wanted to be productive. At least for the last 2 weeks, I'm doing podcast. And
Right.
people would, we would have something to remember me by. So find that
Right.
something that, you want to make use for yourself. And people would appreciate that you have given this gift to the world. I really love using that, Jen. Thank you so much for sharing that to me.
Thank you. Thank you. I've learned a lot from you as well. And yeah, as always, it's always a treat to have this conversation with you. So I don't really mind, even if, I just miss you, Rochelle. I
Yeah.
wish, we can catch up again soon in person.
We will, promise. And by the way, since it's your birth month, um,
Ah.
you
Yes.
said that you are going to be giving away free consultation to business owners, entrepreneurs who wanted to craft their CEO brand, and free first chapter of the upcoming book. So, how are they going to get that?
Yes, yes. I can actually send you the link, and I'll also be posting the link so that they can book their slots. It's of course via calendly.com, and I can also send the link as to where they can download their first free chapter if they're at this stage of figuring out, the initial stages, of course, is in the chapter of their personal brand. So it's actually at jenkahukom.asia. They can download it there. And as for the Calendly link, I can share the link with you. And yeah, they can also look me up, I guess, on LinkedIn. Jeanette Cajucom, Jennette, Cajucom, Cajucom. And yeah, I can also, yeah, I'll also post the link there.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I will also include that in the podcast description. So then they don't have to look anywhere else. So you may find us in Spotify and also in my YouTube channel, also in rochefel.com/podcast. So
Yes. Thank
I
you
guess
so
that's it. Thank you
much.
so much. Bye,
Thank you. Thank you.
everyone.
Bye. Enjoy your weekend, everyone. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for listening to the Passion and Purpose podcast. Join us next week for another inspiring adventures.